The diplomatic station Nexus Prime hung like a crystalline jewel against the backdrop of a binary star system, its transparent walls refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Inside, the tension was thick enough to slice with a quantum blade. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood alone, a solitary human figure surrounded by the most powerful diplomatic representatives in the known galaxy. Her tailored charcoal suit seemed impossibly plain against the shimmering bioluminescent attire of the alien delegates. But Elena knew appearances could be deceiving, a lesson humanity had learned through centuries of survival and adaptation. To her left, Ambassador Quetzalcoatl of the Zarkon Imperium towered nearly 3 meters tall, his crystalline body fracturing light into 1,000 prismatic angles. His voice, translated through sophisticated linguistic matrices, dripped with condescension. Humanity. Quetzalcoatl began, his multifaceted eyes rotating in a pattern that suggested deep contempt, has been a member of the Galactic Confederation for precisely 8 standard cycles. 8 cycles, and yet you presume to have insights that merit consideration. The chamber, a marvel of Xen-architectural design, seemed to pulse with an almost living energy. Delegates from 17 different star-spanning civilizations watched the exchange. Some looked amused. Others looked bored. None looked particularly interested in what a human might have to say. Elena's neural link, a cutting-edge piece of human biotechnology that most alien races considered primitive, was working overtime. Microscopic quantum processors embedded in her cerebral cortex were analyzing everything, not just the words being spoken, but the minute electromagnetic variations, the subtle shifts in body language, the complex interplay of communication that existed beyond mere verbal exchange. To her right, the crystalline collective's youngest diplomat, Zurin, clicked her crystalline mandibles in what passed for laughter among her species. Perhaps the humans would like to explain their latest contribution to galactic diplomacy. The challenge was clear, a trap, meticulously laid out. Elena knew exactly what they were doing. By forcing her into a defensive position, they hoped to demonstrate humanity's supposed intellectual inferiority. Classic diplomatic manipulation, a game played across thousands of star systems for millions of years. But Elena Rodriguez was not just any diplomat. Contributions, she repeated, her voice calm and clear, are not always measured by the volume of words spoken, but by the depth of understanding generated. A ripple of confusion passed through the alien delegates. This was not the response they expected. Quetzalcoatl's fractal body shifted, light refracting in complex patterns that suggested irritation. Riddles? Is this how humans propose to engage in serious galactic discourse? Not riddles, Elena responded. Perspective. Her neural link was recording everything. Not just the audio-visual data, but the quantum-level interactions, the electromagnetic signatures, the subtle vibrational frequencies that most species dismissed as background noise. To her augmented perception, the diplomatic chamber was alive with information, a living, breathing ecosystem of communication, far more complex than simple verbal exchanges. The young crystalline diplomat, Zurin, leaned forward. Her movement was meant to be intimidating, her crystalline structure casting sharp shadows. Explain. Elena's smile was a weapon of its own, sharp, precise, containing depths that no one in the room fully comprehended. In due time, she said softly. At that precise moment, the first quantum-level warning signals began to pulse through the station's advanced sensor arrays. Something was approaching. Something unprecedented. The diplomatic chamber, filled with the most advanced beings in the known galaxy, was about to witness something they could never have anticipated. A demonstration of human potential that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about technological and diplomatic interaction. And Elena Rodriguez was going to make certain they would never forget this moment. The first warning alarms began to sound, soft at first, then growing in intensity. The binary stars outside seemed to flicker, as if even the cosmic background was holding its breath in anticipation. Humanity was about to show its true power. The first quantum echoes arrived like a whisper, then exploded into a symphonic cascade of destructive potential. Major Michael Chen watched the holographic displays with a soldier's trained calm and a scientist's burning curiosity. Nexus Prime's advanced sensor arrays screamed with warnings. Quantum entanglement patterns unlike anything previously recorded began to ripple through the diplomatic station's perimeter. The Void Swarm wasn't just approaching. It was announcing its arrival with a technological overture that defied every known principle of spatial dynamics. Incoming quantum signature, the station's AI announced, its clinical tone barely masking an undertone of genuine fear. Magnitude, unprecedented. Computational analysis, inconclusive. Ken's fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces. His military-grade neural augments were processing information at rates that would make most computational systems overheat. Behind him, Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Dr. Aisha Khan worked in perfect synchronization, their human capabilities pushing technological boundaries. The alien delegates began to panic. The Zarkon representative's crystalline body started to fracture, a physiological response to extreme stress. Crystalline collective diplomats began emergency communication protocols, their intricate communication networks firing in patterns of desperate retreat. "They're running," Chen muttered, his voice a mix of disgust and calculation. Rodriguez looked up, her neural link creating complex probability matrices in real time. "No," she corrected, "they're about to learn what running really means." The Void Swarm materialized like a nightmare given technological form. It wasn't a single entity but a complex, living network of quantum-entangled technological tendrils. Previous galactic records showed it had consumed entire planetary systems in hours, leaving nothing but sterile, stripped planetary cores as evidence of its passage. But this time was different. Chen's military background had prepared him for impossible scenarios. During Earth's final resource wars, humanity had learned survival was about adaptation, not just firepower. Those lessons were encoded in every strategic decision he now made. "Aisha," he called to Dr. Khan, "give me a quantum resonance analysis. I want to know what we're actually looking at, not just what our sensors are telling us." Dr. Khan was already several steps ahead. Her quantum systems expertise wasn't just academic. It was a form of technological poetry. Where other species saw a threat, she saw a complex system waiting to be understood. "It's not just a technological entity," she muttered, her fingers creating complex holographic models that seemed to dance and breathe. "It's a living system. Look at the quantum entanglement patterns. They're not random. There's a form of communication happening that goes beyond traditional technological interfaces." The Void Swarm's energy patterns began to pulse. To the alien delegates, it looked like an imminent attack. But to the human team, it was something far more fascinating. A conversation waiting to be decoded. Rodriguez connected her neural interface directly to the station's primary computational matrix. The room hummed with a different kind of energy, not just electrical, but something more profound. Human potential. Unleash. "We're not going to fight it," she announced, her voice cutting through the mounting panic. "We're going to understand it." The alien delegates stared in disbelief. Centuries of galactic conflict had taught them that unknown threats were to be destroyed, not understood. But humanity had always been different, a species that saw challenges as puzzles, not obstacles. Chen's military tactical displays began to shift. Instead of weapon systems, he was configuring complex communication arrays. The station's entire technological infrastructure was being transformed into the most sophisticated listening device the galaxy had ever seen. Outside the station's transparent walls, the binary stars seemed to pause. The Void Swarm's quantum tendrils continued to pulse, waiting, watching, communicating in a language no one had yet learned to comprehend. But humanity was about to change everything. The station's computational core transformed under human hands like a living organism. Major Michael Chen moved with a precision that blended military discipline with scientific innovation. reconfiguring communication arrays into a distributed quantum computing network that would make most galactic research stations look like children's abacuses. Dr. Aisha Khan stood at the epicenter of technological reimagination. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces, weaving together machine learning algorithms with biological response patterns in a dance of pure intellectual audacity. Complex lines of code morphed and shifted, creating computational pathways that defied traditional technological understanding. "They're not just a technological entity," she muttered, her eyes reflecting cascading streams of quantum data. "They're a living system. Look at these communication protocols. They're not random. There's a fundamental language here that we're only beginning to understand." Nearby, the alien delegates watched in a mixture of confusion and mounting terror. The Zarkon representative's crystalline body vibrated with nervous energy, fractal edges flickering as the humans systematically dismantled and rebuilt the station's most advanced technological infrastructure. Ken's military background provided a strategic framework that complemented Khan's scientific brilliance. Where traditional military thinking would seek to destroy, he saw a complex system waiting to be analyzed, understood, redirected. "Neural interface stabilizing," announced the station's AI, its clinical tone betraying a hint of uncertainty. The system was experiencing something unprecedented, a complete reimagining of its own operational parameters. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved between her colleagues, her neural link creating probability matrices that seemed to breathe with living potential. Each movement was calculated, each decision a complex algorithm of diplomatic and technological strategy. "We're not preparing for war," she said quietly to the stunned alien observers. "We're preparing for communication." The station's transparent walls began to shimmer, quantum entanglement patterns dancing across their surface like living art. The void swarm's technological tendrils continued to pulse outside, no longer just a threat, but a complex system waiting to be understood. Dr. Khan's latest computational model suggested something radical. The swarm wasn't a destructive force. It was a communication network seeking connection. Every planetary system it had consumed wasn't destroyed, but integrated, transformed. "It's like a universal translator," she explained to Chen, "but not just for language. For entire systemic interactions." Chen's augmented eyes tracked the developing computational model. Years of military strategy training had taught him to recognize patterns, and what he saw was unlike anything in galactic records. "We're going to talk to it," Rodriguez announced, her voice a blend of scientific certainty and diplomatic resolve. "Not with weapons, not with traditional communication protocols, but with something far more fundamental." The alien delegates exchanged nervous glances. The humans were doing something impossible. They weren't preparing to fight the most destructive technological entity in galactic history. They were preparing to have a conversation. The station's computational core pulsed with a new kind of energy, not electrical, not quantum, something more profound, something uniquely human. What emerged wasn't a weapon, but a language of unparalleled complexity. The station's computational core had become something more than a mere technological interface. It was now a living translation mechanism that defied every known principle of communication. Dr. Aisha Khan stood at the epicenter of this transformation, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with quantum potential. Each movement created computational pathways that were part mathematical equation, part biological response, part something entirely new. "It's not translation," she explained to Major Michael Chen, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound wonder. "We're creating a form of communication that doesn't just bridge language, it bridges entire systemic understanding." The alien delegates watched in stunned silence. The Zarkon representative's crystalline body flickered with quantum uncertainty, while the crystalline collective's youngest diplomat seemed frozen between terror and incomprehension. Chen's augmented neural networks processed the developing model. His military strategic training had taught him to recognize patterns, but this was something entirely different. The computational symphony they were creating wasn't about defeating the void swarm. It was about understanding it. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved between the complex holographic displays, her neural link creating probability matrices that seemed to pulse with living intelligence. Each movement was a calculated dance of diplomatic and technological strategy. "We're not just communicating," she announced to the stunned observers. "We're creating a new form of interaction." The void swarm's technological tendrils outside the station began to respond in ways no one could have predicted. What had been seen as a destructive force now demonstrated something closer to curiosity. Complex quantum entanglement patterns shifted and reformed, creating intricate geometric designs that spoke of something far more profound than simple technological aggression. Dr. Khan's latest computational model revealed a stunning insight. The swarm wasn't a destructive entity. It was a vast, planet-scale communication network seeking fundamental understanding. Every system it had previously consumed wasn't destroyed, but integrated, transformed. "It's like a universal translator," Khan explained, her fingers creating complex holographic models that danced and shifted, but not just for language. For entire systemic interactions. Chen watched the developing scenario with a soldier's strategic eye and a scientist's burning curiosity. Years of military training had prepared him for impossible scenarios, but this was beyond anything in human or galactic records. The station's computational core pulsed with a new kind of energy. Quantum algorithms merged with biological response patterns. Machine learning intertwined with diplomatic strategy. Something uniquely human was emerging, a form of communication that defied traditional technological understanding. Rodriguez turned to the alien delegates, her gaze cutting through their collective uncertainty. "We're not going to fight," she said softly. "We're going to understand." The void swarm's quantum tendrils continued to pulse out. The intervention began not as a thunderous declaration, but as a whisper of quantum potential. Major Michael Chen's fingers hovered above the computational matrix, each movement calculated with a precision that blended military strategy with scientific innovation. The intervention they were about to launch wasn't a traditional attack. It was a fundamental reimagining of systemic interaction. Dr. Aisha Khan stood beside him, her neural interfaces creating complex probability matrices that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "We're not fighting," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. "We're communicating." Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the alien delegates, her gaze a calculated mixture of diplomatic resolve and scientific certainty. The Zarkon and crystalline representatives had stopped trying to interrupt. Now, they simply watched, a mixture of terror and fascination etched into their alien physiognomies. The computational virus they were preparing to deploy was unlike anything in galactic records. It wasn't designed to destroy or infiltrate. Instead, it was a complex informational matrix intended to introduce fundamental changes to the void swarm's core operational parameters. Quantum entanglement stabilizing, the station's AI announced, its clinical tone barely masking an undertone of anticipation. Chen's military background had prepared him for impossible scenarios, but this was beyond any traditional strategic framework. Where conventional military thinking would seek to destroy, they were preparing to redirect, to understand, to transform. The first quantum tendrils of their intervention began to pulse, part mathematical equation, part biological response, part something entirely new. Outside the station's transparent walls, the void swarm's technological networks began to respond in ways no one could have predicted. "Initiating primary communication protocol," Khan announced, her voice a blend of scientific excitement and profound concentration. The intervention was elegant in its complexity. Quantum algorithms merged with diplomatic strategy. Machine learning intertwined with biological response patterns. A computational symphony that defied traditional technological understanding was about to be unleashed. Rodriguez stepped forward, her neural link creating a bridge between human potential and the vast, unknown intelligence of the void swarm. "We're not here to fight," she said softly, a statement that seemed to resonate beyond mere verbal communication. "We're here to understand." The alien delegates watched in stunned silence as the humans transformed the most advanced diplomatic station in the galaxy into something more than a communication hub. It was becoming a living translation mechanism, a bridge between fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Chen's augmented eyes tracked the developing scenario. Complex lines of code morphed and shifted, creating computational pathways that seemed to breathe with potential. The Void Swarm's technological tendrils outside began to pulse in response, no longer a threat, but a complex system seeking connection. Intervention protocol activated, the station's AI announced. The galaxy held its collective breath. Humanity was about to show its true power, not through destruction, but through the most radical form of communication ever attempted. Understanding. The metamorphosis began with a quantum whisper that grew into a cosmic symphony. Technological tendrils that had once stripped entire planetary systems now started to rebuild. Energy patterns that had consumed now began to redistribute. The Void Swarm, an entity that had terrorized galactic civilizations for millennia, was transforming before their eyes. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a mixture of scientific wonder and diplomatic triumph. Her neural link captured every microscopic change, creating probability matrices that seemed to dance with living intelligence. The alien delegates stood frozen, their complex physiologies betraying a mixture of terror and incomprehension. "It's not destruction," Dr. Aisha Khan muttered, her fingers tracing complex quantum patterns. "It's integration." Major Michael Chen's augmented eyes tracked the developing scenario. Years of military strategy had taught him to recognize patterns, but this was beyond any traditional understanding. The Void Swarm wasn't just changing, it was evolving. Planetary ecosystems that had been previously consumed began to show signs of regeneration. Technological networks that had stripped worlds bare now created intricate symbiotic systems. It was as if the entire concept of technological interaction was being rewritten at a fundamental level. The Zarkon representative's crystalline body flickered with quantum uncertainty. The crystalline collective's youngest diplomat seemed caught between scientific fascination and existential terror. Everything they understood about technological systems was being challenged. Quantum regeneration protocols activated. The station's AI announced, its clinical tone unable to mask the profound nature of what was happening. Rodriguez turned to the stunned alien observers. "This," she said softly, "is what happens when you seek to understand rather than destroy." Each moment revealed another layer of transformation. Technological networks that had been seen as purely destructive now demonstrated a complex form of ecological integration. The Void Swarm was no longer consuming worlds, it was healing them. Chen's strategic mind processed the unfolding scenario. Where traditional military thinking would have seen a threat to be eliminated, humanity had found a way to communicate, to redirect, to transform. Dr. Khan's computational models continued to evolve. "It's not just technological reconstruction," she explained, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound wonder. "It's a complete systemic reimagining of how technological entities can interact with biological systems." Outside the station's transparent walls, the binary stars seemed to pause. The Void Swarm's quantum tendrils continued to pulse, no longer a threat, but a complex system of planetary restoration. The alien delegates exchanged looks of incomprehension. The humans had done something impossible. They hadn't fought the most destructive technological entity in galactic history. They had transformed it. Rodriguez's neural link captured every microscopic change. Her diplomatic training, combined with her scientific background, had prepared her for this moment. Humanity wasn't just showing its technological capabilities, it was demonstrating a fundamental approach to systemic interaction that went beyond mere conflict. "We didn't see a problem to be solved," she would later say. "We saw a conversation waiting to happen." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed a new approach to understanding, not through destruction, but through profound, systemic communication. The Galactic Confederation's emergency session convened in a chamber that seemed to pulse with collective uncertainty. Holographic representations of hundreds of star systems flickered around the central platform, where Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Major Michael Chen, and Dr. Aisha Khan stood as the sole human representatives. "Explain," demanded the Arch-Chancellor of the Crystalline Collective, her multifaceted body refracting light in patterns of barely contained agitation. Rodriguez stepped forward. Her neural link was a subtle shimmer around her temples, a testament to the technological innovation that had become uniquely human. Behind her, Chen and Khan represented different facets of human potential: military strategy, scientific brilliance, diplomatic resolve. Holographic displays began to reconstruct the events at Nexus Prime. Each alien delegation watched as the humans had transformed the most destructive technological entity in galactic history into a complex system of planetary restoration. "We didn't fight the Void Swarm," Rodriguez explained, her voice cutting through centuries of established galactic conflict protocols. "We communicated with it." The Zarkon representative's crystalline body flickered with quantum uncertainty. Diplomatic protocols that had existed for millennia were being dismantled in real time. Dr. Khan's computational models danced across the central display. Complex quantum algorithms showed how the Void Swarm's technological networks had been redirected from destruction to restoration. Planetary ecosystems that had been consumed were now showing signs of unprecedented regeneration. "It's not just technological reconstruction," Khan explained, her fingers tracing complex probability matrices. "It's a complete systemic reimagining of technological and biological interaction." Major Chen stood as a living testament to human adaptability. His military background had prepared him to see beyond traditional conflict models. Where other species saw threats, humanity saw complex systems waiting to be understood. The Arch-Chancellor leaned forward, her crystalline mandibles clicking with a mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. "You transformed an entity that has consumed over 200 inhabited worlds. How?" Rodriguez's smile was razor-sharp. "By doing something no other species considered. We listened." The holographic displays continued to show the remarkable transformation. Technological networks that had stripped worlds bare now created intricate symbiotic systems. The Void Swarm was no longer a destructive force. It had become a complex mechanism of planetary healing. Diplomatic representatives from across the galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humanity was rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological interaction, not through superior firepower, but through a profound approach to communication and understanding. "We're not just presenting a solution," Chen added, his military strategic mind providing a framework to Rodriguez's diplomatic approach. "We're presenting a new way of approaching complex systemic challenges." Dr. Khan's computational models continued to evolve. Each moment revealed another layer of the transformation, demonstrating how human potential went far beyond traditional technological understanding. The Galactic Confederation's chamber seemed to hold its collective breath. Humanity had done something impossible. They hadn't conquered the most destructive technological entity in galactic history. They had transformed it. Rodriguez looked across the assembled delegates. "We're not here to fight," she said softly, a statement that seemed to resonate beyond mere verbal communication. "We're here to understand." The galaxy would never be the same. 5 standard galactic cycles after the Nexus Prime incident, humanity had become more than just another member of the Galactic Confederation. They were its most sought-after strategic partners, architects of a new approach to complex systemic challenges that defied traditional understanding. The Void Swarm, once the most feared technological entity in the known galaxy, now moved through star systems as a collaborative network of planetary restoration. Where it had once consumed worlds, it now helped repair ecological systems, redistribute resources, and create intricate symbiotic technological networks. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Confederation's primary diplomatic station, watching quantum streams dance across the holographic displays. Behind her, Major Michael Chen and Dr. Aisha Khan continued to refine the communication protocols that had transformed galactic interaction. It was never about fighting. Rodriguez would often say during her lectures to diplomatic cadets from across the galaxy, it was about understanding. The transformation went far beyond a single incident. Humanity had demonstrated a unique approach to complex challenges, a blend of empathy, creativity, and systemic thinking that transcended traditional technological and biological boundaries. Zarkon and crystalline diplomats who had once mocked humanity now sought their counsel. The computational models developed during the Void Swarm intervention had become the foundation of a new approach to technological and diplomatic interaction. Dr. Khan's research teams continued to push the boundaries of communication theory. What had begun as a radical intervention at Nexus Prime had become a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent systems could interact. Major Chen had transformed the traditional military strategic approach. His new diplomatic strategic models were taught in academies across multiple star systems. Where previous approaches saw challenges as problems to be eliminated, humans saw them as complex systems waiting to be understood. The Galactic archives would forever mark this moment as a turning point, not a victory through destruction, but a transformation through understanding. Planetary systems that had been previously considered lost began to show unprecedented signs of regeneration. The Void Swarm's technological networks created complex ecological support systems, redistributing resources in ways that challenged every previous understanding of technological interaction. Rodriguez looked out at the quantum streams dancing across the holographic displays. The binary stars outside seemed to pulse with a new kind of potential, a reminder of that moment at Nexus Prime when humanity had shown its true power. We didn't.